Can I get Jerry Henry? Can you come up here, brother?
Come on, yeah. Come on.
Lead us in a prayer, brother.
Heavenly Father, we come to you, give you all the honor, all the glory, all the praise. We just want to let the word that's being spoken transcend in our lives. Let the word that we hear tonight, let it, come to us and let it move us in the way that it needs to, Father, so we can use it in our day-to-day lives, so we can, when we're going through hardships, when we're going through day-to-day struggles, everything, Father, and let us practice it so we can be acceptable in thy sight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Good job. Brother, welcome, guys. Hope you guys are encouraged to be together. And I just wanted to actually start off by opening it up for some good news sharing, just to kind of get connected. I know a lot of you guys, we got the teens come from school. We got a lot of you singles and married guys that come from work. So I wanted to just start off by sharing some good news. We got Andrew there. Why don't you stand up, brother?
Hey, so I've got some good news about the teen conference coming up. We're super excited about it. This is, I think, our biggest group signed up yet. We're almost at 30 teens coming. Right? And so there's also some friends of our teens mixed into that as well. So we're really excited to have a great teen conference at the end of the month.
Awesome. Pretty exciting, guys. 30 teenagers that are interested in deepening their faith. That's a real encouraging thing. So, yes, sir.
Last Wednesday, I think it was, we had our zone kickoff meeting here in the parlor, right over here. So that's the Butler's House Church, the Crosnick's House Church, and Shola's House Church. It's just really a good, encouraging time, thinking about the year to come and the goals that we have, and we want to be noble people for God this year. But it's just great to kick off that way. We're looking forward to having a great time as a zone.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Any other good news here? Any other? Yes, Kevin.
Yeah. So our Bible talk this year is really focused on having some fun and really just making the gospel attractive and having other people see our lives and just having fun. And we've been having some great events. We had a great Super Bowl party where we had like 25 people over at our house.
Nice.
Then we just had a great little Valentine's Day dinner at Andiamo's. Our group got together and some other disciples joined us, but we just had a great time and just really enjoying the fellowship. So.
Amen. Thank you. Brandon Lane.
Two things. First thing, one of my coworkers has been coming out, and the singles have just kind of like jumped the reach ministry.
Yes.
The reachers.
The reach ministry.
Yeah.
Reachers.
Yeah. That's weird. That's not like appropriate, right? Okay, whatever. So the reach ministry, they just kind of wrapped their arms around her. She's super encouraged by it. Her name's Amanda Courts. So, plus I'm super black and she's like white, so I'm always trying to reach out to different people. So we're kind of like building the kingdom.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
The other thing is the men in my group, Nigel, Trevor, Juan, Mike. Juan led his first Bible talk last week.
Awesome.
Did a great job accepting the feedback, looking to grow. Did I say Mike or Juan? Juan, right?
Yeah.
But I've been getting with Mike consistently, and this brother is super fired up.
Yes.
He's really serious about taking the word. He's really serious about getting help. He's really serious about wanting to be a leader for God, for the kingdom. I love his heart. So I'm really encouraged to be in the group that I am with the brothers that I'm with. So
awesome. You're doing a great job. This guy's you got some good news, right? Some kind of good news? What's going on?
I don't know, man.
So this past weekend I got engaged.
I hope, I don't know if you guys know, Chris dates a sister out in Toronto, and they're probably having sisters midweek. Hopefully she's sharing good news there too as well. So that's really hopefully that's good news. Hey, Clifton Brent's back with us, guys. Yeah. 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So not to come out for 6 weeks. Yeah. So just a couple quick things I wanted to mention real quickly. Prayers for Janet Brown's family. Fenton passed away. It was on Sunday, and let's be praying. The funeral is on memorial's on Saturday. This Saturday. But just be praying for not only for Janet but also June Milton, his daughter. So, and then real quick here, I wanted to ask just before we started, because we don't, we only meet with the guys only a couple weeks. Does anybody have a birthday in January? Raise your hand if you have any January birthdays. All right, brother. Well, you get this is your birthday present. Because as you get older, we don't really get stuff. Like a lot of times. Especially if you're a dad, you can go Christmas and really get nothing. So that's the only person we have. How about February? Who's a February birthday? All right, here we go. Listen. All right, here we go. All right. Anybody else? We have spiritual birthdays in January, February, and baptized in January or February. We got. Is this, you're going to pretend that you were?
No, I was baptized in December, so.
Yeah, but that's not January, February, right? It's just this guy. What about the... Oh, we got here? I got to get rid of these, man. Yeah, rid of these. I thought there'd be like a dozen of us or something like that with birthdays. Look how many there are. Just statistically, guys, there should be 1/6 of us that have birthdays in the first 2 months. Goodness. Dude. All right. I'm going to phone their mother today and tell their mother that they love them today. Anyone call their mother today? Anyone do that? No? Come on, don't lie. Jesus is watching. Oh, Cliff did. All right. You send this over to Clifton there. Thank you. All right. Cliff can get that. One other just good news I wanted to share. You guys, some of you may not know, but there was a sister that interned in our campus ministry named Deb Orler. Yeah, Deb Orler. She was, in the campus ministry for many years, and then she went to serve in the full-time ministry in Kentucky, where the Crosicks were, and I think lived with you guys for a bit. Is that correct? And anyway, she's looking for work here. She might be moving back to help out, hopefully with the Reach Ministry. We're really excited about that. But I just wanted to share a comment. She shared that when the Crosicks were there, she had seen the church, how it was before, how it is during, and how it is after. And she said, the Crosicks changed the entire church. Wow. He said the minute they touched down, they started initiating with people and having people in their homes. And she said, I saw what the church was like before. They literally taught people how to be friends. Wow. And they said that when they left, the church went through this real, we're super discouraged, and everyone missed them and all that stuff. But I think it speaks to, obviously, Kevin and Christy's discipleship and leadership. They didn't need a title to lead, but then just the impact that one person can have in a church when you just decide to love. So anyways, great job. She was just mentioning that too. As long as we're building the kingdom, amen. So I wanted to give you. Last week I was in Kansas. This is a picture of me that someone took, and I have a funny tilt to my head, but it's a pretty dynamic group there. It's a church of about 400 disciples. It spans about it includes Lawrence, Kansas, which is kind of a college town there with KU, or Kansas University there. I got a chance to do a workshop for the staff out there, which was real encouraging. They have a great dynamic staff. Actually, they're just hiring. We're in the process of hiring 2 new couples as well. Wow. So it's a pretty awesome group, and they've got their own church building, and so. As you can kind of see, they got this, pretty dynamic setup, and it looks they've had it for a while, but the current evangelist revamped it. It's all renovated, so it looked kind of like this, and now it looks very modern. It looks like the year 2020, if that makes sense. And so that was real encouraging. We stayed until Tuesday. We stayed until yesterday, so we flew in back last night. I brought my whole family. And also it was a chance for my oldest there, Ethan, to check out the campus ministry and the colleges out there. He's been kind of on tour, and for those of us that have seniors, sometimes you kind of travel the country to see where they're going to go. So the evangelist for the Kansas City church is actually an old friend of mine, Kevin Herka, and then the evangelist for the Lawrence region, or that part of the church where the campus, took me to a KU basketball game. So this was also a picture of us at the game on Monday night, and I'd never been to a college basketball game. Have you? Raise your hand if you've been to a college basketball game before. Okay. Those students are insane. They're like doing this, like for like 15, 20 solid minutes, just standing. Like I stand. If you're like me, if you stand for more than 10 minutes, like I gotta sit down. For like just 10, 15 minutes, they're doing this, just kind of hopping up and down. So that was pretty crazy. Anyways, if you know anything about college basketball, this team is perennially ranked like top 5 in the country always. So it was pretty awesome. But anyways, just wanted to update you on that. So we have, what I wanted to do today is, I really have a short devotional. It's like 7-8 minutes. And then I just wanted to have a couple questions to ask us, and so that we could kind of interact a little bit. And then we'd end it with just kind of breaking up for a prayer for a couple minutes, and then we'd be done. So I just have a short devotional, and again, like I said, just like 7-8 minutes. I have a little video. It's about 1 minute. And then we're going to ask some questions, and I'm hoping to interact with us, kind of have a brotherly interaction, and then I thought we'd break up for prayer. So first thing I wanted to start was, as we talk about walk, I chose this theme, and I thought it would be a great theme to just kind of remind us all that, Christianity is not about the badge that we wear, but it's really asking ourselves, are we walking with Jesus? Right. And nobody, myself included, is immune from drifting in our hearts or becoming a Pharisee. We got to always make sure that we're growing and engaged in discipleship. I read an article recently, and it's pretty startling, and I think I've shared some of the. It's a book called Focus on the Family, and it was an article sourcing that. But I don't know if you can see it, but it's talking about the trends in families. And it said, if the child is the first person or the main Christian presence in the household, there's a 3.5% probability that everyone in that household will follow that child. Right? And that's what I'm saying. And this is Focus in the Family. You can actually even go on their website. They'll have tons of articles and data and research that they've done. If the mother is the first to be a Christian, right? It's talking about kind of the primary sort of figurehead of faith in that household. There's a 17% chance that the rest of the house will follow. If the father is, there's a 93% chance that the rest of the house will follow. And I just share that to say, man, my goodness, God has really put a responsibility on men to be leaders in their homes, to be leaders in the communities. And you can trace a lot of society's problems to the inability of men to lead and to step up. And I just share that to say, wow, man, the importance of this group right here. I was talking to the Kansas City church, and I talked about all I had to do is say Kansas City Chiefs, and that whole church erupted in joy. It was like low-hanging fruit. I just was like, Chiefs! It was the easiest sermon I ever preached, right? And I said, there are statistics that tell you that when a sports team does well, literally divorce goes down. Suicide, depression goes down. People just get energized by these things. And I just talked about the power of 53 men on a football team and their ability to inspire an entire state. Just like the whole state shut down. And then we just asked ourselves, imagine what a church, focused on the mission, on the task of Jesus Christ can do to instill hope in people's lives. And of course, they're just doing it for a crown that's not going to last. It's not going to last a year and we're going to forget about it. But we're, of course, doing it so that people can get that crown forever. And so I want us to look back again at discipleship, and specifically I just picked a couple scriptures to remind us of the importance of learning, but also learning from one another. And something like this, the tribal, the ritual, the community that is our men's midweek. It's not just a coming, but it's part of our worship to God, right? Of course, we know this passage. Whoever claims to live in him must walk as Jesus did. Yeah. So what does that walking look like? What is we talking about? Well, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And so this is kind of what's going to drive a lot of the questions and some of our discussion today is just to ask ourselves, are we still sharpening each other? Are we still learning from? I'm not talking about just coming to and hearing a lesson or listening to your Bible talk leader, but engage in relationships that really do build each other up. And then, of course, I did a Bible study today with one of my son's friends. He brings him home from high school, and his name is Aiden. He's a soccer player, and we just sit and we just kind of talk. He's kind of coming from not a very strong faith background, not super familiar with the Bible or Jesus Christ. But one of the things we're looking at is we looked at this passage. It says, "How will people know you're disciples? If you love one another." And I just use this passage to say, hey, church is not just this ritual, it's a community. And I really encourage this young man. You know, I knew there was a little bit of hesitation on his part to want to come out to church, but I said, you've got to come out, you've got to check it out even once. But what you're going to see is this is what church is. It's not a building, but it's about the relationships that we build. And this is a passage that we all know really well. I'm going to show you guys a quick video. It's about some guys talking about Kobe Bryant, the basketball player that just passed away. And I want to make a point a little bit about, let me make sure the volume's on, just a little bit about just the kind of player that he was and sort of how, if anybody follows basketball, he was, during his era, there was a time when he was the best player in the world, clearly. And he had won 5 championships, 3 with Shaq, but then he won 2 without Shaquille O'Neal. Kind of cemented his legacy as one of the best. So let's look at this.
My favorite Kobe moments, it was on the 2009 championship run against Boston. And I'm sitting in Prime 112 in Miami, you know, out of the playoffs, watching on TV, watching other games going on, other things going on, and I get a call from this unknown number, and it keeps calling me and calling me. So eventually I answer it, and it's Kobe on the phone. I run outside immediately because Kobe's calling me, and he said, "Hey, Boston's guarding me this way on the pick and roll. What should I do?" He said, "You're the best at pick and rolls in this game. I watched your series versus them. How should I attack them when they blitz me? How should I attack them when they hedge? How should I attack them when they playing soft?" And this is one of the greatest players to ever play, and he's reaching out to me, a younger player, asking me, how do I attack these pick and rolls? And I'm sitting there waiting the next game, and I'm hoping that he do one of the things I said, and to watch him dominate that series after that, I felt like he let me be a part of it. Like, I felt a part of that championship, you know?
One of the things that, if you see a quality or the habit of people that achieve excellence at the highest level, one quality that is consistent with these men is that no matter what they achieve, what age they are, where they are, they remain a student. They remain a student. In other words, long past just graduating, long past, whatever stage of life, they remain a great student. Here is Kobe Bryant, who is, in an industry full of ego, and I'm not saying that, he was this Christ-like figure. I'm saying that there's an aspect of his character that achieved excellence that all of us can learn from. I showed a video to my staff about Bill Belichick, and he's the greatest coach in NFL history, and how he said that he learned so much from Randy Moss when he was coaching him. And just these guys, what I admire about these men is that no matter where they are and sort of in their career, and no matter how decorated they become, their attitude and mindset is still, I'm a student. And it's just one thing that for myself, I want to make sure that I never lose that edge, that I want to make sure that I'm engaged. And it's not so much, it's like wisdom. You never are there where you go, I'm wise. But men that pursue wisdom get wisdom. You know what I mean? And men that just kind of like value it, or kind of like, yeah, I hope wisdom will just kind of drop itself in the sky magically on me. But there's men that really pursue that understanding and studenthood. And I thought it was just a powerful illustration. They were talking about him. He said, man, I was younger, but he called me to ask me my advice on this. And so I wanted to use this as an inspiration for us to think about discipleship in our lives. And I'm just going to ask us 4 questions. And I'm going to share personally, but then I'm going to ask you guys, for those of you that have it on your heart, to raise your hand and then share as well. So the first question I want to start off with was this one. Who's a spiritual hero in your life, and what did he teach you? And so I want us to think about men that have made a great impact on our lives spiritually, and specifically what you learned from them. I'm going to start off sharing. There was a guy named Jeff Campbell, and he goes to, he's a disciple that's part of the Hamilton Church. But what he taught me was to be, I remember when I first started praying with him, we went in, he'd just say, you want to go pray? And I was like, yeah, sure. And we went in a golf course, and he just started screaming out loud, God, I just, and I remember we didn't know each other that well. I'd just known him for like a month, and it's easy to be weirded out in those moments when you're talking with a stranger. But I just respected how he was unashamed in his relationship with God. And I see him as a hero. Obviously, he was the one that invited me out to church, ultimately baptized me. But he taught me that you should not be ashamed of your relationship with God. And I learned that from him. So I'd love for you guys to take a second and to just kind of marinate on this question. If anyone's got it on their heart to answer this, I'd love to kind of see what we can mine from this group. But yeah, Mike, why don't you stand?
Well, I would say one person that's a spiritual hero in my life would be Andrew. And the reason why I would say that is because there are times where I might be struggling in my faith, and I might want to reach out to him, but then there's like an embarrassment. I'm like, man, and it's like he only 20, I think he's 27, so he like a year older than me, and so, but I don't even see him as being 27. I see him as like being older than that, and it's like I have so much reverence for him that it's like sometimes it can be an embarrassment, like, hey bro, this is what happened, or this is what I'm dealing with, and it's like, man, for him to be 27 and for me to reverence him, it's like, man, it's just, I don't ever lose that. It's like it has never left. And in close, whenever I'm struggling or something, he always send me these scriptures, and that's like a reminder that, bro, you gotta stay in your word. And so he ain't ever just like trying to talk me through it. He might give me some advice, but he always backing it up with the word. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Solomon.
So one of my spiritual heroes is actually Joe Nagel. He actually studied the Bible with me. Tom was recording this. Might get a little personal, but Joe, back when I was a teen, I studied a few times. The first time I kind of fizzled out. I was very ambitious, and it was just so attractive to be around spiritual guys. Like, and my image of the church was like a lot of perfect people, a lot of strong men. So, as we all know now, like one of the biggest traits that we can have that's very powerful in the church is our vulnerability. And if you don't know Joel Nagel, he has a lot of like urban legend type stories about him. Like there's like a story that he, when I was studying, I was 13. He was about I think 18 or 19, and there was a story about him when he was a disciple in his high school. He went to this huge high school, I think Woodhaven, and there was a lot of students. I remember he told us that, or a lot of people told us that he stood up on his cafeteria table and he shared his faith, and everybody was throwing food at him and all that stuff. So like when I was at the end of my studies, I actually got caught up on the sin study, and the reason why is it was hard for me to get open about my struggle with my purity, because I felt like I was supposed to be perfect. And so I remember Joel came to my dad's house, and the first thing he did is he sat down and he was open about his struggle with his purity. And it kind of like, something that changes the dynamic. It changed the whole paradigm of what a disciple, what a man of God looked like. And at that point, it was I don't know what came over me, but it was one of those things where I felt like, I can be open now. And it just shifted the whole paradigm of what a man of God looked like. And it started with vulnerability. And even to this day, I try to mimic that in my life. Just, I don't know what people see in me, what people look at me. I always want to be impactful with my vulnerability and the things that I struggle with and who I am and what I'm going through. So one of those things that we're not very close to Joe Nagel, but what he did in that moment when I was 13, when we came to my dad's house and sat down and confessed all of his past sins to me, was like mind blowing.
Right.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah, when so I was baptized in Cincinnati, and I moved here after 2.5 years, and there's a brother there, a new brother named Mike Licari. He was in his mid-40s, or probably 50s, but a brand new brother, and we're just getting to know each other as I was leaving, and he asked me, one time. He said, "So what's a quiet time for you?" So, well, you got to read your Bible like for 30 minutes, and you got to pray for 15 minutes, and you got to journal. And I said, what's a quiet time for you? He's like, I just spend time with God. I'm like, oh wow, that's profound. That's profound. I was so technical. And this guy he quit his job when he became a disciple, and then he became a nurse's aide at a nursing home. And he said, I'm with people like when they die. And I just listen to these people's stories and their lives. Like he gave up this career to do what he felt God was leading him to do in a real heartsy way. So what it really we had a series of conversations. When I moved here, we were emailing like crazy. I was just getting into email. But what it really taught me is just the heart for people, not to be so technical, but to really care about people. There's a really uncommon relationship that I had with him. He was super heartsy, but it taught me the value of relationship and of people and of heart, because I'm a pretty technical kind of person. So as a relationship, I really valued.
Awesome. Let's do two more there. Walter, let's do Walter.
I'm Walter Nelson, if you guys haven't met me. One of my spiritual heroes, I'm in a blended relationship. I guess you want to say, but when you have multiple kids that aren't from the same, how do you call it? Blended family.
Yeah.
So I have a blended family. My wife had a child, and when we first met, and then I had a child before we met. So coming together was kind of difficult at times with, I had a girl and she had a girl, but then we had a boy together. And like, just the, being able to show love to both kids without trying to show favoritism, and not try to make the one feel less. So my daughter that is from my wife, she always had an issue. I remember one day she said, "You're not my dad." And she was like 3.5 years old. I just wanted to just go, I was sitting on the couch one day and I was just really struggling because like me and her just kept clashing. And I came from the era where it's the more authoritative, do what I say versus, you focus on actions versus the heart behind things. It's like, be quiet, sit down, shut up, go upstairs, I had a D-time. Tony Singh is one of my spiritual heroes. I was having a D-time and he sat me down and he was just telling me about love, period, and what that really meant. And then how you just have to consistently show love in every situation, regardless of what, if you're angry or whatever, and it will change the heart of the child.
Right.
So long story short, my daughter and I are like this.
Wow.
She's a disciple, and she just left today because my birthday is Friday and she came to surprise me. So we have a great relationship.
Awesome.
Last thing. I'm sorry, but this is an exclamation point on it. She got married like 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Her relationship with her father was iffy. He watched me walk her down the aisle. That's how close. Wow. That's deep.
Let's go to this next question. Here's one. It's what has been the hardest lesson for you to learn your character? And again, the last question I asked it because I want us all to engage in our minds and our hearts to consider that we all need heroes, and that the formation of our character came because of heroic men and heroic faith. But what's the hardest lesson for you to learn in your character? And I'll just kind of throw myself out real quick. One of the hardest things that I've had to learn, and I know it here, but it doesn't always get here, and that is anger doesn't help my marriage. And that I'm angry because I'm selfish and I lack wisdom. Those are truths. Anger doesn't help my marriage. I'm angry because I'm selfish. I want a shortcut. I just want to fix her. I just want her to treat me the way I want to. I don't want to learn how to speak to her. I don't want to learn and understand her journey. I don't want to completely empathize. It's embarrassing. It's when I'm at my worst. It's just very selfish. It can be a result of just me, wanting my wife to be there for me as opposed to me for her. It can happen when I'm struggling with my purity or my righteousness, or I'm not walking with God. A lot of it's just the fruit of that. But that's sometimes, again, so simple. I know it here. I can recite it to you guys. It takes a while for it to get here for me. So I want you guys to consider here if there's any men that are bold enough here to maybe perhaps share some of the things that's been real hard. Mr. Greg, can you stand up, bro, so we can all see you?
I think the two would be either selfishness, that it's my default is to just think of me. I really have to work to be considerate, to think of others. Otherwise, I just kind of get a glass of milk for me and there's someone else there, but I didn't really think about getting one for them. And the other one would be, I think, related to that is just the being loving, I guess. Again, it's kind of related, but caring enough about others to, it's kind of related to selfishness. When I focus on me, I'm not loving others. So it's two sides of a bad coin, but I'm not, I really have to work at that because my default is just me.
No, I appreciate that. Of course, we know Greg is a great servant, but it's one of these things where, regardless, sin knows no face. So, James?
I would say, for me, especially having two young daughters, I'm seeing it reflected in them and myself. I'm a very entitled person. I want what I want. I don't care what you want. I want what I want. And I see my babies. They want what they want, and I want to chastise them or punish them for that. You can't be that way. Well, what about that? Like, I'm worried about that. But it's just my character. It's my attitude. I'm an arrogant person. I'm an entitled person. I'm a very prideful person. And it takes work for me to listen to what someone else has to say to me about anything, because my entitlement makes me say, well, okay, that's your opinion. What I think is what's real.
And I appreciate that, James. Thanks for your vulnerability. Jared, why don't you?
For so long, I've been always the type of person just to, keep a smile, stay positive, but sometimes, some people be asking, hey, Jerry, you all right, bro? Yeah, I'm good, when I'm actually not, and just being vulnerable, allowing myself to, stay, hey, I'm not really doing so good, but always want to make it seem like I am, because I want to make sure that person's, day is going good. I want to make sure that person's day is going. I don't want, my negative day to overflow to the next person. So, but just being in church and just being around brothers and sisters is just allowing myself to be open about what's going on. So God can work instead of just leaning on my own pride and just saying, oh, well, I got it when I don't.
Appreciate that. Trying to help others, but just kind of not let someone in.
Yeah.
Let's have one more, John.
So I would say also with my wife, and this is in process, so not that I have arrived, but being able to love my wife without it being a transaction with expectations. So if I love you in this way, that you appear to need to be loved, then I expect that to be reciprocated in some way. And that just, I've seen that create like a vicious cycle in our relationship that I started and predicated. And so it's been a long time, but I think I'm moving out of that, and it's amazing to watch what God does when we take ourselves out of the center. And then I think what has helped with that is realizing that she's less my wife and more God's daughter, and I can try to treat her that way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's amazing as I'm looking at the brothers that are sharing, James and John and Greg, and people sharing their weaknesses, and yet we probably know them for the opposite of what they're sharing, you know what I mean, as being great givers, but it's because obviously, people have helped us in our life. Let's move on here, a couple more questions. One is, who's a spiritual friend that's helped you grow a friend, and what does he do to encourage you? So, this is kind of more along the lines of, we've talked about the hero, but we're talking about just your peers, your besties. I know in Detroit in the last, 4 years that I have been here, I know people that have really particularly encouraged me. Brandon has been one. My oldest son, Ethan, they're both very, very open. Dan Williams is also just brothers that are like, hey, send me a text or leave me a message or just something to pray for, but they're kind of getting open about the ugly stuff, and gives me the courage to, get open, whether it's, Darren's calling me or I'm just talking to anybody, like, okay, these brothers are getting open, I don't really have an excuse. And so I know we all need not just the people that lead you, but we need to go shoulder to shoulder and friends. So love to hear any thoughts. Yes, Mr. D. Banks.
I would say a spiritual friend that's helped me to grow would be Mike Hawthorne. Mike has been one of my best friends for years, and he helped me to transition from an immature teen to a young adult to a young single professional to a married brother. And what did he do? He just loved me. He listened to me, he listened to my mess, and he would just be real. One night after midweek, we got together, we had some D time. We went to the movies, and we went to go see Minority Report. And then we went to go grab some food, and then we sat in front of my house, and we just talked. And he asked me a particular question about, me wanting to get married and, vulnerability, and I shared some stuff with him, and he was like, you're not really ready to be married unless you're truly willing to be vulnerable with Stephanie. And I was just like, that was the realest advice I ever got. And so even though we've grown and went into different areas, different D groups, and he's not my discipler anymore, but he's always been there for me. Stood up in my wedding and just always encouraged me, hey bro, what's up? So we still have that bond, even from like years and years ago.
Amen. That's a great story. And Mike does breathe that sort of integrity and maturity into us. So, yeah.
I would say a spiritual friend that helped me grow a lot is Chris Phillips. We basically grew up together, stuff like that. And how he's encouraged me, his y'all know Chris, his energy is infectious. Like, he always comes up with that positive energy and things like that. And even when I go to Devos, we have on Wednesdays, and I'm not necessarily having a good night or whatever, he kind of picks me up with that energy, whether he's, telling a joke or he's touching me when I don't want him to touch me and stuff like that. Like, he always helps me pick up my energy, even though even though I'm not having a good day. So.
Awesome. Amen. Awesome. Bryce.
One that impressed me is a kid from Colorado. His name is Gus. He just calls me higher. Sometimes it's like sometimes I don't want to talk to people, so it's like I'll talk to him and he'll be like, "Oh, you should work better on this," or "Go be open with your discipler." So it helps a lot.
Awesome.
Well, I'm new to the church here, but a quick friend that has come into my life since the very first date I had with my now wife. I just got married last year in April. It's Cliff. And Clifton Brent, something that he does that amazes me is literally talk me off of the ledge. I've learned how quickly I can just go nuts about something that I'm feeling in a conversation I've had with my wife, or just this new thing of being married and merging two lives together. But that man is able to listen, smile through a text, and then actually send me a lesson to learn from. And something that actually literally, and he sends a text like every day. Maybe everybody gets them, but I'm always picking something new out of those. But my specific issue, he will speak to when I call.
That's awesome. Wow. Appreciate that. Nice. I'm going to close out. We're going to break up. But before, I wanted to make one comment as we kind of close, just because we have to close because of time. A couple months ago, Nathaniel Schlosser came over to my house, and this is just to illustrate kind of like that we're all going through our journey. We're all struggling, but we can be that brother or hero for someone else. I was talking to Nathaniel Schlosser, and he was just trying to get input and advice from me, and we were just talking. I was like, okay, thanks. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, Nathaniel, who who in your life symbolizes the elder sage? Like the old man of wisdom. Who in your life is that old guy? The old guy that just imparts aged wisdom. He said, I know this. Nick Merkel. Yes, I know. Nick Merkel was like my campus student out at Purdue. And but now somehow Nick has achieved old sage status in the eyes of another person. You know what I'm saying? So, like I just share that to say, like I said, we're all going through our journey, but we all need each other to kind of be that person for ourselves, each other. And so, I wanted to just kind of close this time actually with just as brothers, just kind of breaking up in groups together and praying. So, if we could break up in groups of 3 or 4. And there's just stuff to pray about, whether it's on our own hearts and stuff like that, just for about 5 minutes, guys, and then we'll be done. But let's just break out into groups right now, and groups of 3 or 4, and just kind of finish the night with prayer together. Amen.